time is between the supernationalists and the mild nationalists and blacker than thou. When blackness is a state of mind, a state of attitude, a state of approach to things that can exist in almost any of us, including from the blonde black person to the jet black. And the jet black can be traitors, and they can be patriarchs, they can be a whole lot of... We've been everything in history from saint to buffoon. We are complete people, and we need to start looking at ourselves as a complete people. And I think that once we convinced ourselves that we're black and beautiful, we'll stop saying it and just go ahead and be black and beautiful and release a whole lot of energy for more important things.
If race is arbitrary, then could we say that being called black was a political term?
It's a political term, and a term which indicates our self-awareness at this juncture in history, and I think we really need it. We need to really bathe in blackness for a while, but I wish we'd get the bath over with and go on to something a little more important, because black in itself is not an ethnic term. Black tells you how you look, but it don't tell you who you are. We are essentially an African people. Wherever we live on this earth, we're essentially an African people. And we relate to the millions of African people throughout the world, including the uncounted millions of Africans in Asia.
Are you an entertainer, or are you a committed person to black people?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I believe that the liberation and salvation of the black nation must be brought about by black people gaining a thorough knowledge of self after our 500 to 6,000 year Holocaust, where we have lost over 600 million. And so I believe that education process must be a process of two steps: inspiration and information. So I seriously give information, but black people are a people of rhythm and spirit, so I also give inspiration.
Constructive change. You want to change in Harlem. You want to change in Brooklyn, in the Bronx. You want to change in New Jersey, in Philly, in Los Angeles, in Alabama, in Mississippi, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa, in the Congo. But before change can take place in the world, a change must take place in you and in me, black man and black woman. There can be no change in the world until a change takes place in us. You can't be the same old Negro expecting the world to change.
That we are most apathetic and lazy in those areas which, if we were not, we would challenge those in power. You see? We were not apathetic in technology, economic development, science, political organization, and so forth, then this system couldn't be the same that it is today. In fact, we would threaten and perhaps overthrow those who rule over us. You see? So in those very areas, we must feel very lethargic. It's very hard for us to get the energy to move in those areas. And so for this system to operate, black people have to be crazy. Oh yeah. We cannot be in our right minds and be in the condition we're in. That's a political necessity, an economic necessity. We talk about apathy, for instance, where people supposedly do not show an interest in, a passion for those things and activity and knowledge, which if they did so would change their circumstances. We're left puzzled, you see. Why doesn't this person show an interest in reading and writing and understanding? Because if they did, they could achieve certain things and solve.
We say about the major essence of domination, that this society, though it rewards us, this establishment, though it rewards us to maintain its control, if necessary, will kill us. And you must keep in mind that the European never intends to give up control of African American people. Never intends to to not be in a position to dominate us as a people. Never. And if it is necessary, and we've seen it already, we see it every day, for those people to kill us to maintain control, they are going to engage in that. You keep that in mind, because see, there are some of those who are being rewarded by the system, you see, and they see themselves being elevated in it, and they think, therefore, it is changing.
Sorry, a lot of us, think that we can just preach the enemy into submission. It ain't going to happen. But if you got some power behind what you're saying, things happen, you see. People listen to powerful people, don't they? If we want to be heard, if black people have a different message, if African people have a different message, a different philosophy and ideology, then African people must back that ideology up with power. But as long as you don't have any power, your message can be as beautiful and as wonderful as you want it to be. Nobody's going to hear you. Nobody's going to pay you any mind. We call that apathy, and we see that as a disturbed mental state, particularly when the opportunity is there for them to do so. But then you begin to recognize that apathy in our people is a necessary state in order for the system to operate. That we are not apathetic all over. We're apathetic in certain key areas of life. We'll work all day and night throwing balls and catching balls. No problem there. But we won't work all night at the math, at the reading and the science. You see, so even the apathy is organized. But when you look at it closely, you'll recognize that it is politically organized.
You see, what we said before, why are so many of our people caught up in immediate gratification? Why is the attention span of African people so short? Of course, it has to be short, so that we can forget all of the atrocities committed against us in the past. So that we can forget immediately, 2 weeks later, every insult that has been visited upon us as a people. And yet you see other people keeping memories alive and sometimes not getting their revenge until 300 and 400 and 500 years later, because they don't let their history die. But here we have a people for a hot dog and for a cup of coffee at an integrated lunch counter are willing to forget every insult to their ancestors that ever happened. And people who robbed of their history, of their past and their future, they will have children then who will have problems in the classroom situation, which demands this kind of thinking. You understand? That's why, ladies and gentlemen, if you are to solve the academic problems of African American children, you must solve the political and economic problem of African American people. You must solve the problem of being dominated by Europeans, because that domination will create and shape your thinking styles and thought styles and behavioral styles and emotional styles. You have to understand that. I wish we had time to talk about some of these things. There's a lot of confusion around here. Each one of us then thinks that we can engage in individual salvation. This is destructive and will lead to the destruction of African American people and African people. We will die with tremendous amounts of knowledge and skills in our heads. If those skills and if the knowledge is not coordinated and combined in the sense of nation and in the sense of peoplehood, no amount of individual accumulation and knowledge and skills will save us as a people. It is only when that accumulated knowledge and the accumulated skills that we have are coordinated under the banner of nationhood and peoplehood will we then save ourselves as a people, and we will be saved individually as persons. We must keep this in mind.
Please don't deceive yourself. If America is the #1 power in the world, they could police their borders to stop the drug traffic. These men and what they represent intentionally want to make sure the black boys never grow up to be men. But remember, they got some help from some of us who really like black boys, who may even have black boys at home, just didn't know any better. And so we bat number 5 through 9. Batting 5th, not all, but some mothers who raise their daughters and love their sons. Batting 6, some female teachers who don't understand that boys have different learning styles than girls. Batting 7, representing the media in this country, shows like Gary Coleman and Webster. Shows that make me sick. Shows that illustrate that black men cannot raise intelligent black boys to be men. In other words, we need a white father for Gary Coleman and for Webster. It's all part of the media image. It goes all the way back to Tarzan, all the way back to Superman, all the way back to Rambo. To this time, something must be going on in society. I now want to explain what that is. When America believed in agriculture, America believed in extended family. When America believed in the factory, industrialism, America believed in the nuclear family. But now that America believes in the computer, now America believes in a single parent family. Make sure you see my analysis. When the economy changed, the family structure changed. There was more than love in these relationships. There was some money involved here. Our grandparents worked the fields together, had economic reason to stay together, and so they did. In a factory, man works in factory, woman takes care of children. Economic reason again to stay together. But in this new economy, where you now have women working just as much, if not more, than men, you now hear women telling men, I don't need you, got my own job. Do what I want to do when I want to do it. And we are now doing it very well and by ourselves. You know the #1 song in America a couple years ago, Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. If you want to be with me, you got to have a J-O-B. It's all about money. Their hero, Michael Jordan, has said there were 1 million brothers that won his job last year in the NBA. Of this million, only 400,000 will even make it to play high school ball. Of this 400,000, only 4,000 will make it to play college ball. Of this 4,000, only 35 will go to the coveted NBA. Of this 35, only 7 start. And the average life in the NBA is 4 years. You got 1 million brothers looking for 7 full-time jobs that last 4 years. This conspiracy is complex. It goes beyond the NBA. Even schools are in on it. What will be the first thing you see when you walk into a Cincinnati high school? A large trophy case. In other words, even schools give more glory to their ball players than the scholars. That's said in the earlier workshop. Where are the pep rallies for the honor roll? In other words, even school, I can understand the NBA, but even schools give more glory to their ball players. Last year we had 100,000 jobs available to be a computer programmer, engineer, or doctor, and only 1,000 brothers qualified. So our appeal to black males is to realize the odds. That you do most will be that you do best. I mean, we were the first doctor, not Hippocrates, Imhotep. So we have the ability either in math or science or music and sports. But that you do most will be that you do best. If you play basketball from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you'll be a very good basketball player. If you went home and went to the library, you'd be a very good scholar. We need more black male role models that will encourage our youth in math. Many of us have waited, and we have waited almost too late to develop black boys to be men. You know what I'm getting at. America spends $2,300 on Head Start. They spend $38,000 on prison. If Reagan wanted to balance the budget, I can show you can save about $36,000 per person. It's much easier to educate than it is to incarcerate. Now you raise the questions. How long do you stay in Head Start? Year? 2 years at the most? How long do you stay in prison? The rest of your life? Question number 1. Question number 2, does Head Start work? A 19-year study documents that Head Start works, but in prison, 85% of the inmates that get released go right back in. But as Jesse Jackson said, we have 2 choices. We can either send me to Penn State or to State Penn. It's your choice. Where are black boys going to see black men? If you look at the home, 38% of all black children live in a single-run household. In terms of school, 83% of all elementary school teachers are women. 95% of all teacher aides are women. When you look at on television, you'd be hard-pressed to name 5 positive black men on television outside the news, especially if I excluded Bill Cosby. And then, unfortunately, many young people, men don't go to church. So the last place is the streets, and that's the problem. The streets do a very poor job making black men. So the real problem is black boys have a difficult time seeing strong black male role models, which is why these kind of shows are very important. People making plenty of money and lonely. They place money before family. You see, black men want to do what white men do. buy their family a house in the suburbs, 2 cars, and once a year go down to Orlando for Disney World on vacation. And when black men can't do that, they don't feel they're worthy enough to stay. Now you see, the problem is there are 2 responses black women can give to black men when they're out of work. Now the first response some women say is, well, if you ain't working, you gotta go. If you ain't working, you gotta go. That's a mistake. Because black men don't hire nor fire, nor control the means of production. Now, before black men say that's right, brother, you tell them. Please, brothers, quit assuming that black women took our jobs away. Because black women also do not hire nor fire. We are being played off against each other for some crumbs. We recommend the second response. For black women to say to that man, well, if you ain't working, can you at least go back to school? Can you at least learn a skill? Or at least make dinner, as I said earlier, want to do what white men do. And that means be the breadwinner. What I'm getting at is, we're going to have to redefine what it means to be a man. Because if being a man means being the provider, with 25% of black men out of work, that's a suicidal definition. You see, if I lose my job tomorrow, I'm still a man. As long as I'm responsible, treat my wife correctly, raise my children, that's responsibility. I'm not going to allow my employer to reduce my masculinity. I need to define what being a man is. And I think it's a perfect balance between the mental, the spiritual, and the physical. Not being a breadwinner, but a balance between the mental, physical, and the spiritual. Isn't it interesting? You have 2 black men. Both lose their jobs. One black man resorts to crime, leaves his home. He's been reduced by the society. The other black man sells newspapers, sells peanuts, does whatever he can to take care of his family. Same economic situation, but a different set of values.
I will say, look, let's focus on the here and now.
Yes.
Why is history important?
History, as Dr. John Henry Clarke often said, history is the clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. So if that's real, then what time is it for black folk? Black folk are in worse shape today than we were 50 years ago because we don't know our story. We have allowed others to tell us who we are. Dr. Clarke also said that history is the compass where people find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells you who you were and where you were. History tells you who you are and where you are. But the most important role of history is to tell the people where they still must go and who they still must become. So my responsibility as a memory recovery specialist is to wake up those people who've been taught to believe that they were Negro, that they were colored people, that they're black, and to begin to help them understand that you're African. You're descendants of the first people. You're descendants of the first people who created the first culture, and there's much that we can pass on.
Politics cannot be the central driving force of black liberation. It is a supportive strategy, Nick, a part of that major black agenda. It is not the black agenda, but the NAACP, the Urban League, the Congressional Black Caucus, our black sororities and fraternities, our grassroots organizations, the black church, the Negro aristocracy have made black people think that you can change everything. If you elect the right person. Right. Nobody else believes in that. Folks don't want no accountability for liberation. Right. See, voting is easy. One time, go home.
Feel good about your vote.
Praying is easy. Go to church, pray one time, and go home. Right. But a true liberation movement requires sacrifice and accountability. And we don't want to do both. Right. I don't want to do anything for you, and I damn sure don't want you holding me accountable for what I didn't do. Right. So the reason why politics is so important to black people is because we don't have any other strategies in play. Going to church and you love the pastor, you love his sermon, but when that's over, you still have a high enough political IQ where you can say, okay, pastor, I love what you said, but you are bringing in $100,000 a month in this church. What are we doing for the community around our sleeves and work our way out of this? Right. But the pastor say I could pray my way out. The politician, the Congressional Black Caucus said I could vote my way out of this thing. What this nigga talking about? I gotta stand up to the power structure and give my money and show up at the meetings. I don't want to. What I'm not looking for is a black president or a black governor or a black mayor. I'm looking for black power. Stop confusing the personality with the power.